Commander Jake Morrison walked slowly through the empty corridors of the UES Wanderer. His footsteps echoed in the silence that had become their way of life for 20,000 years. The ship was massive, bigger than any city that had ever existed on Earth, but it felt like a tomb drifting through the endless darkness of space. He stopped at the large window that looked out into the void. Stars sparkled like diamonds against the black canvas of space, but none of them were home. Earth was gone. It had been gone for so long that most people on the ship had never seen it, never breathed real air, never felt real sunlight on their faces. Jake touched the cold metal wall beside the window. Somewhere out there, in the distant galaxies, the Zirathi Empire continued to grow. They had destroyed Earth when humanity refused to surrender. They had hunted down every human colony, every space station, every ship that tried to escape. Almost every ship, the Wanderer had been different. It was built in secret, using technology that the Zirathi had never seen. The ship could hide itself from any scanner, any sensor, any eye that tried to find it. For 20,000 years, it had drifted between galaxies like a ghost, completely invisible to the rest of the universe. Dr. Lisa Carter appeared beside him at the window. She was old, older than anyone had a right to be, but the medical technology on the ship kept her alive and healthy. She had been working on the Human Enhancement Project for centuries, making sure that each new generation of humans was stronger, faster, and smarter than the last. "The children are asking questions again," she said quietly. "They want to know why we can't go home." Jake nodded. The children always ask questions. They were born on the ship, raised on the ship, and they would probably die on the ship. But they still dreamed of a world they had never seen. "What do you tell them?" he asked. "The truth," Lisa replied. "That home is gone, but we're still here. We're still human. And someday maybe we'll find a new home." Jake turned away from the window. He had heard those words before from other commanders, other doctors, other people who had lived and died on this ship. But he knew the truth was more complicated than that. They weren't just looking for a new home. They were waiting. The ship was not just a refuge. It was a weapon. Every day, the engineers and scientists worked to make it better, more powerful, more deadly. The humans who lived on the ship were not just survivors. They were soldiers in training, preparing for a war that had been going on for 20,000 years. Engineer Pete Collins was waiting for Jake in the bridge. Pete was young, maybe 30 years old, but he had the mind of someone much older. He had been born on the ship, like most of the crew, but he understood technology in ways that amazed even the original engineers. "Commander," Pete said, pointing to a screen filled with numbers and charts. "The new stealth systems are working perfectly. We're completely invisible to their scanners. Even if a Zirathi ship flew right next to us, they wouldn't see us." Jake looked at the screen. The technology was incredible, far beyond anything that had existed when Earth was destroyed. 20,000 years of secret research and development had made the humans into something the galaxy had never seen before. "And the weapons?" Jake asked. Pete smiled. "Better than anything the Zirathi have? We've been watching them for 20,000 years, studying their technology, learning their weaknesses. When the time comes, they won't know what hit them." Admiral Kate Sullivan entered the bridge. She was the oldest person on the ship, having lived through multiple rejuvenation cycles. She had been there when Earth died. She had given the order to run, to hide, to wait. For 20,000 years, she had kept the humans alive and hidden. "Commander Morrison," she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, "we need to talk." Jake followed her to the command center, a room deep inside the ship where the most important decisions were made. The walls were covered with screens, showing information from across the galaxy, pictures of Zirathi ships, maps of their territory, reports from their spy networks. "The Zirathi Empire is weakening," Admiral Sullivan said, pointing to one of the screens. "Their territory is too big to control properly. They're fighting wars on multiple fronts, and their resources are spread thin. Some of their subject races are starting to rebel." Jake studied the information. The Zirathi had conquered thousands. of worlds, enslaved hundreds of species, built an empire that stretched across 3 galaxies. But empires that big were hard to hold together. "What are you suggesting?" he asked. "That maybe it's time to stop hiding," she replied. 20,000 years is a long time. We've grown strong while they've grown weak. We've developed technology they can't imagine while they've become lazy and overconfident. Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. For his entire life, the ship had been silent. No radio transmissions, no contact with the outside universe, no sign that humans still existed. The Zirathi thought they had won. They thought humanity was extinct. "The crew is getting restless," Admiral Sullivan continued. "Especially the younger ones. They want to do something, to fight back, to make the Zirathi pay for what they did to Earth. And maybe they're right. Maybe we've been hiding long enough." Jake looked at the screens again. The Zirathi Empire was vast, but it was also vulnerable. They had no idea that 50,000 humans were living on a ship that could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear again before anyone knew what had happened. "What would you need from me?" he asked. "Your support," she said, "and your skills. You're the best tactical officer we have. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. We get one chance. If we fail, humanity dies forever." Jake thought about the children on the ship, the ones who asked why they couldn't go home. He thought about Earth, burning under Zirathi weapons. He thought about 20,000 years of hiding, of silence, of waiting for the right moment. "When do we start?" he asked. Admiral Sullivan smiled for the first time in decades. "We start by sending a message. Not with words, but with actions. We remind the galaxy that humanity is still alive. And then we show them what 20,000 years of preparation can do." Jake looked out at the stars through the command center's windows. Somewhere out there, the Zirathi were living their lives, thinking they were safe, thinking they had won the war. They had no idea that their greatest enemy was still alive, still watching, still planning. The age of silence was almost over. Soon, the galaxy would remember what it meant to fear humanity. And this time there would be no mercy, no second chances, no escape for those who had chosen genocide over peace. The phantom ship had been drifting through the darkness for 20,000 years, but now it was time to cross the stars again. Time to remind the universe that humanity was not dead, just sleeping. And when humanity woke up, the galaxy would never be the same. Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the UES Wanderer, surrounded by the technology and weapons that would change everything. The long silence was ending. The war was about to begin again, and this time humanity would win. Captain Alex Stone sat in the pilot's seat of his small ship, the Shadowhawk, as it moved silently through space. The ship was invisible to all sensors, just like its mothership, the Wanderer, but the Shadowhawk was different. It was built for war, not for hiding. Every piece of technology on it was designed to kill. Alex had been born on the Wanderer 35 years ago, but he looked nothing like the humans who had fled Earth 20,000 years earlier. He was taller, stronger, and faster than any normal human. His eyes could see in the dark, his reflexes were faster than any computer, and his mind could process information at incredible speeds. He was what humanity had become after 20,000. Years of careful genetic improvement. The message from Admiral Sullivan had come 3 days ago. It was simple and direct. Operation Ghostlight is a go. Humanity returns to the stars. Alex had been waiting for those words his entire life. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez sat at the weapons control station beside him. She was also enhanced like all the crew members on the special mission ships. Her fingers moved across the control panels with perfect precision, checking and rechecking their weapon systems. The plasma cannons were charged, the missile launchers were loaded, and the stealth systems were working perfectly. "Target confirmed, Captain," Maya said, her voice calm and professional. "Zirathi mining facility on Kepler 442c, 1,200 alien workers, minimal security, standard defensive systems." Alex looked at the tactical display. The mining facility sat on the surface of a dead world, pulling valuable metals from the planet's core. It was a small operation, far from any major Zirithi base, which made it perfect for their first strike. "How many years has it been since humans last fought the Zirithi?" Maya asked. 20,473. "Years, 6 months, and 15 days, Alex replied without hesitation. The enhanced humans never forgot anything. Every date, every fact, every piece of information was stored perfectly in their improved minds. "I wonder if they remember what we're capable of," Maya said. Alex smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had been hunting for a very long time. They're about to find out. The Shadowhawk dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the star system. The mining facility appeared on their screens, a collection of metal buildings and mining equipment scattered across the planet's surface. Zirithi ships moved back and forth between the facility and the processing stations in orbit. "Beginning." "Approach," Alex said, activating the ship's advanced stealth systems. The Shadowhawk became completely invisible, not just to sensors, but to the naked eye as well. It was like a ghost moving through space. The Zirithi had not improved their technology much in 20,000 years. They had become lazy and overconfident. After conquering most of the galaxy, their sensors were old, their weapons were outdated, and their defenses were weak. They had no idea that death was approaching them from the darkness. Alex guided the ship toward the planet's surface, moving slowly and carefully. The Zirithi guards at the facility were not paying attention. They were talking, laughing, and relaxing. They thought they were safe. They thought humanity was extinct. "Target the main power plant first," Alex ordered. "Then the communications array. We want to cut off their ability to call for help before we reveal ourselves." Maya's fingers danced. Across the weapons controls, 2 plasma torpedoes launched from the Shadowhawk, invisible and silent as they streaked toward the planet's surface. The first torpedo hit the power plant and destroyed it in a brilliant flash of light. The second torpedo took out the communications array before anyone could send a distress signal. Suddenly, the mining facility was plunged into darkness. Emergency lights came on, casting an eerie red glow over the buildings. Zirithi workers and guards ran in panic, trying to understand what was happening. "Now we show ourselves," Alex said, deactivating the stealth systems. The Shadowhawk appeared directly above the facility like a nightmare materializing from the void. The Zirithi had never seen a human ship before, and they stared in terror. The sleek, black vessel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Alex opened a communication channel to the facility. When he spoke, his voice was calm and cold. "This is Captain Alex Stone of the human starship Shadowhawk. 20,000 years ago, your people destroyed our world and tried to kill every human in the galaxy. Today, we begin to return the favor." The Zirithi below began screaming and running. Some of them tried to reach their weapons, but it was too late. Maya had already targeted the facility's defensive systems, and her plasma cannons destroyed them in seconds. The Zirithi weapons were no match for human technology that had been improved for 20,000 years. Alex and his crew beamed down to the facility's surface using advanced teleportation technology. They appeared in the main control room, where a group of Zirithi guards was trying to organize a defense. The aliens looked exactly like the old records from Earth had described them. Tall, gray-skinned, with large black eyes and long, thin limbs. They had not changed at all in 20,000 years, but the humans had changed. Alex moved faster than the Zirithi could follow, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge their energy blasts with ease. Maya appeared beside him, her plasma rifle cutting through Zirithi battle armor like it was made of paper. The other crew members spread out through the facility, systematically destroying everything they found. The battle was over in less than 10 minutes. The Zirithi had no chance against humans who had been designed for war. Their weapons could not hurt the enhanced humans, their armor could not stop human weapons, and their reflexes were too slow to keep up with their enemies, but Alex did not kill all of them. That was not the plan. He made sure that one Zirithi transport ship escaped, carrying survivors who had witnessed the attack. They needed to spread the word. They needed to tell the galaxy that humanity was back, The surviving Zirathi pilot flew his damaged ship as fast as he could toward the nearest Zirathi base. His passengers were in shock, barely able to speak. They had seen humans move like living shadows, weapons that could destroy anything, and technology that seemed like magic. "Report?" the base commander demanded when the transport ship arrived. "Humans," the pilot gasped. "The humans are back. They're not dead. They attacked the mining facility. They moved like ghosts, fought like demons. We couldn't stop them. We couldn't even slow them down." The base commander stared at the pilot in disbelief. "Humans have been extinct for 20,000 years. "No," the pilot replied, his voice shaking with terror. "They've been hiding. And they've become something worse than we ever imagined." Word of the attack spread quickly through Zirathi military channels. Most commanders refused to believe the reports. Humans were extinct, everyone knew that. But the evidence was undeniable. The mining facility had been completely destroyed, and the survivors all told the same impossible story. On the Shadowhawk, Alex received his next orders from the Wanderer. There were 11 other ships like his, each one crewed by enhanced humans and equipped with weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Each ship had a list of targets, and each attack would be more devastating than the last. "Where to next, Captain?" Maya asked. Alex looked at the list of Zirathi installations that were marked for destruction. Military bases, research facilities, command centers. All of them would burn before humanity was finished. "The Zirathi wanted to wipe out humanity," Alex said. "Now they're going to learn what it means to be hunted by ghosts. Set course for the military depot on Zirath 7. It's time to remind the galaxy what happens when you try to destroy the human race." The Shadowhawk disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind only the smoking ruins of the mining facility and the terrified reports of the survivors. The Phantom ship had crossed the stars and the hunt had begun. General Ryan Parker stood in the war room of the UES Wanderer, watching the large holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Red dots marked Zirathi territory, while blue dots showed where human ships had struck. In just 2 weeks there were 47 blue dots scattered across Zirathi space. The attacks were working exactly as planned. Each strike was perfectly planned and executed. The human ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed their targets completely, and vanished before any help could arrive. The Zirathi military was in chaos, trying to protect thousands of installations with no idea where the next attack would come. Dr. Helen Brooks sat at a computer terminal nearby, monitoring alien communication networks. She was the ship's expert on alien languages and behavior. For 20,000 years, she had studied the Zirathi and their subject races, learning everything about how they thought and acted. "The panic is spreading faster than we expected," she reported to General Parker. Zirathi military commanders are sending conflicting orders to their fleets. Some want to gather all ships for defense. Others want to spread out to cover more territory. They can't decide what to do. Ryan nodded as he studied the tactical display. The Zirathi Empire was huge, covering 3 galaxies and controlling thousands of star systems. But that size was now working against them. They had too much territory to defend and not enough ships to do it properly. "What about their subject races?" Ryan asked. Helen smiled. "That's the best part. The Zirathi are so scared that they're starting to execute entire populations of slaves. They think some of the alien races might be helping us or hiding human survivors. But this is just making things worse for them." Ryan walked over to another display that showed reports from across the galaxy. Rebellions were breaking out on dozens of worlds. Slave races that had been crushed under Zirathi rule for thousands of years were suddenly finding the courage to fight back. They saw humanity's return as proof that the Zirathi could be defeated. Senior Navigator Carol Davis entered the war room carrying a datapad with new intelligence reports. She had been working with the spy networks that humans had secretly built throughout the galaxy over the past 1,000 years. These spies were mostly aliens who hated the Zirathi, but some were human agents who had been living in deep cover for centuries. The Zirathi High Command is meeting on their fortress world. Of Zereth Prime, Carol reported. They're pulling back their best fleets to defend their most important worlds. This is leaving their outer territories almost undefended. Ryan studied the information. Zereth Prime was the heart of the Zerethi Empire, a heavily fortified world. Deep in their territory, it was surrounded by defense stations, protected by their most powerful fleets, and considered completely safe from attack. How many ships are they moving to defend Zereth Prime? He asked. Over 2,000 of their best warships, Carol replied, plus all the defense stations and planetary weapons. They're turning it into the most heavily defended world in the galaxy, Ryan smiled. The Zerethi were doing exactly what humans had expected them to do. They were so afraid of losing their capital that they were weakening their defenses everywhere else. This would make the next phase of the plan much easier. Send word to Captain Susan right on the Retribution, Ryan ordered. Tell her to begin. Phase 2 operations. It's time to start hunting their fleets directly. Meanwhile, on the outer edge of Zerethi space, Captain Susan Wright received her orders aboard the assault carrier Retribution. Her ship was much larger than the stealth ships that had been conducting the first phase of attacks. The Retribution was designed to fight entire fleets, not just isolated installations. Susan had been enhanced like all the other human soldiers, but she was also one of the oldest enhanced humans still alive. She had been fighting simulated battles for over 200 years, preparing for this moment. Her ship carried 300 smaller fighter craft, each one piloted by an enhanced human who had trained their entire life for space combat. All ships, this is Captain Wright, she announced over the communication system. We have new orders. We're no longer hiding from Zerethi fleets. We're going to hunt them down and destroy them. Show them what 20,000 years of preparation can do. The Retribution and its escort ships moved toward the Veil Nebula, where Zerethi intelligence reported human activity. The enemy had sent their 7th Fleet to investigate. Over 300 ships commanded by Admiral Vex Korath, one of their most experienced military leaders. Admiral Vex Korath had been fighting wars for the Zerethi Empire for over 500 years. He had conquered dozens of worlds and destroyed countless enemy fleets. He was confident that his ships could handle whatever humans they might encounter. After all, the reports about human capabilities had to be exaggerated. Deploy the fleet in standard search formation, he ordered his captains. These humans have been hiding for 20,000 years. They can't have many ships or advanced weapons. We'll find them and destroy them quickly. But as the Zerethi fleet entered the nebula, they found themselves surrounded by enemies they couldn't see. Human ships appeared from every direction, their weapons already firing. The Zerethi had walked into a trap that had been 20,000 years in the making. Captain Wright watched from the bridge of the Retribution as the battle unfolded. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, each one knowing exactly where the others were and what they were doing. Their weapons were far more powerful than anything the Zerethi had, and their shields could absorb enemy fire that would destroy normal ships. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the entire Zerethi 7th Fleet had been destroyed. 300 enemy ships reduced to floating debris, with only a handful of escape pods surviving to tell the story. Dr. Carl Thompson, who was monitoring the battle from the Wanderer, recorded everything for analysis. He was particularly interested in the psychological impact on the surviving Zerethi. The few aliens who had escaped were in complete shock, unable to believe what they had witnessed. The survivors are reporting impossible things, he told General Parker. They claim human ships could appear and disappear instantly, that human weapons could destroy multiple ships with a single shot, that human pilots could predict their movements before they made them. Ryan studied the reports from the survivors. The truth was simpler than the Zerethi believed, but no less devastating. Humans had achieved tactical perfection through 20,000 years of study and preparation. Every Zerethi tactic, every ship design, every weapon system had been analyzed and countered. Send a message to Admiral Vex Korath's replacement, Ryan ordered. Tell them we're willing to accept their surrender. But the Zerethi response came quickly and was predictably arrogant. The Zerathi Emperor himself sent a message to humanity, broadcast on all frequencies across the galaxy. "Humans," the Emperor's voice rang out, filled with rage and hatred. "You are vermin that should have been exterminated long ago. We destroyed your pathetic world 20,000 years ago, and we will finish the job now. Surrender immediately, or we will hunt down every last one of you and make you suffer for your insolence." The response came from Admiral Kate Sullivan aboard the Wanderer. Her words were calm and cold, but they carried the weight of 20,000 years of anger and preparation. "Emperor Zekvareth," she said, using the alien ruler's full name to show that humans knew everything about their enemies. 20,000 years ago, humanity begged you for peace. We offered to share our technology, our knowledge, our friendship. You chose to destroy our world and hunt us to extinction instead. She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. "We learned from your example. We spent 20,000 years becoming everything you feared we might become. We are no longer the weak species you tried to destroy. We are your worst nightmare, and we have come to collect what you owe us." The message ended, but its impact spread across the galaxy like a shock wave. Every species that had suffered under Zerathi rule heard it and understood. The hunters had become the hunted. The empire that had seemed invincible was now facing an enemy that had been preparing for this moment for 20,000 years. The stars themselves seemed to shiver as the galaxy remembered what it meant to fear humanity. Commander Tony Mitchell stood on the bridge of his battleship, the Vengeance, as it drifted silently through the Veil Nebula. Around him, 35 other human warships waited in perfect formation, invisible to all sensors. They had been waiting for 3 days, but Mitchell knew the wait was almost over. The Zerathi were coming. Their 4th and 9th fleets were moving through space toward the nebula, following reports of human ships in the area. The aliens thought they were hunting ghosts, but they were actually flying straight into the most deadly trap in galactic history. Lieutenant Commander Beth Harper monitored the long-range sensors from her position at the tactical station. She was watching the approaching Zerathi fleets, counting their ships and analyzing their formations. The enemy had over 400 vessels, including some of their newest and most powerful warships. "Contact in 30 minutes, she reported to Mitchell. "They're maintaining standard battle formation." "No indication they suspect a trap?" Mitchell nodded. The Zerathi had grown arrogant over 20,000 years of easy victories. They had conquered so many worlds and destroyed so many fleets that they had forgotten what it was like to face a real enemy. They were about to learn that lesson in the hardest way possible. Captain Ruth Baker was aboard one of the smaller human ships, the Shadow Strike, positioned at the edge of the trap. Her ship was equipped with the most advanced recording equipment humans had ever built. Her job was to make sure that some Zerathi survived to tell the story of what happened here. "All ships, this is Commander Mitchell." His voice came over the communication system. "Remember, we want survivors. Not many, but enough to spread word of what we can do. Make it look impossible. Make them afraid to sleep at night." The Zerathi fleets entered the nebula in perfect formation, their commanders confident and relaxed. Admiral Kex Thalen, leading the 4th Fleet, had destroyed human colonies during the Great War 20,000 years ago. He remembered humans as weak and frightened creatures who died easily. "Begin scanning for human ships," he ordered his captains. "They're probably hiding behind asteroids or using some primitive stealth technology. Once we find them, we'll destroy them quickly." But the humans weren't hiding behind asteroids. They were everywhere at once, using stealth technology that was 20,000 years more advanced than anything the Zerathi could imagine. The alien scanners showed empty space even as human weapons locked onto their targets. Mitchell watched. The Zerathi ships spread out through the nebula, moving deeper into the trap with every passing minute. The alien formations were textbook perfect, exactly what human tactical computers had predicted they would do. After studying Zerathi military doctrine for 20,000 years, humans could predict their enemies' moves before they made them. "Initiate." "Attack pattern Alpha," Mitchell commanded. The human ships appeared as if they had materialized from another dimension. One moment the Zirathi were alone in empty space. The next moment they were surrounded by sleek black warships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The human vessels were beautiful and terrible. Like works of art designed for death, the Zirathi barely had time to register what was happening before the human weapons opened fire. Plasma beams that burned hotter than stars tore through alien hulls like they were made of paper. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through shields struck vital systems with surgical precision. Particle cannons that fired streams of pure energy vaporized entire ships in seconds. Admiral Kexthalen watched in horror as his flagship's bridge filled with smoke and sparks. Half his fleet was gone in the first minute of combat, destroyed by weapons he had never seen before. The human ships moved like living creatures, dancing between his remaining vessels and striking with impossible accuracy. "Return fire!" he screamed at his crew. "All ships, return fire!" The Zirathi weapons found their targets, but their energy beams and missiles simply bounced off the human shields or passed harmlessly through ships that flickered in and out of existence. The humans had perfected defensive technology that made them nearly impossible to damage. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper was piloting one of the human fighter craft that had launched from the larger ships. Her small vessel was faster and more maneuverable than anything the Zirathi had ever built. She weaved between the alien ships like she was dancing, her weapons destroying enemy fighters and bombers with casual ease. The enhanced humans piloting the ships had reflexes that were 10 times faster than normal humans, and their ships responded to their thoughts as much as their hands. They moved through the battle like they were playing a game they had practiced for their entire lives. Captain David Reynolds commanded a group of human destroyers that had surrounded a cluster of Zirathi cruisers. His ships fired in perfect coordination, their weapons timed to hit the same targets at exactly the same moment. The combined firepower was devastating, turning massive alien warships into clouds of glowing debris. The battle continued for 17 minutes. But the outcome was never in doubt. The Zirathi had brought over 400 ships to hunt down a handful of human vessels. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that was superior in every possible way. Human technology, human tactics, human training, and human enhancement had combined to create the perfect killing machine. When the shooting stopped, only a dozen Zirathi ships remained intact, and most of those were badly damaged. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel. Not one human ship had even been seriously damaged by the alien weapons. Commander Mitchell opened the communication channel to the surviving Zirathi ships. When he spoke, his voice was calm and matter-of-fact, as if he had just completed a routine training exercise. "This is Commander Tony Mitchell of the Human Battle Fleet. Your empire destroyed our world 20,000 years ago and tried to wipe out our entire species. Today you learned what we became while you thought we were dead. This is only the beginning. Tell your emperor that humanity remembers everything, and we forgive nothing." The surviving Zirathi ships fled the nebula as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. The crews were in shock, barely able to function. They had witnessed something that should have been impossible. A human fleet had appeared from nowhere and destroyed 2 of the Zirathi Empire's most powerful battle groups in less than 20 minutes. Admiral Kexthalen's escape pod was picked up by a rescue ship 3 hours later. The old warrior who had terrorized human colonies was now a broken creature, muttering about ships that moved like ghosts and weapons that could destroy anything they touched. "How many human ships were there?" the rescue ship captain asked. "I don't know," Kexthalen replied, his voice hollow with shock. "They were everywhere and nowhere. One moment space was empty, the next moment we were surrounded by death itself. They moved like they could read our minds, like they knew what we were going to do before we did it." The news of the battle spread through Zirathi space faster than light-speed communications could carry it. Military commanders who had never known defeat were suddenly faced with an enemy that seemed unstoppable. Morale collapsed as stories of human capabilities grew more incredible with each telling. On the fortress world of Zirath Prime, Emperor Zekvaroth called an emergency meeting of his military council. The most powerful leaders of the Zirathi Empire, gathered in the palace war room, their faces grim with worry. "How is this possible?" the Emperor demanded. "Our intelligence report said humans were extinct. Our sensors showed no human ships in our territory. How can a dead species suddenly appear with technology superior to ours?" General Vakrathan, the Empire's military commander, studied the battle reports with growing alarm. "The humans have been hiding, my Emperor. For 20,000 years, they've been watching us, studying us, preparing for this moment. They know everything about our tactics, our technology, our weaknesses. Then we adapt," the Emperor declared. "We change our tactics, upgrade our technology, eliminate our weaknesses." "It may be too late for that," General Vakrathan replied quietly. "The humans aren't just fighting us, my Emperor. They're terrorizing us. Every battle makes our soldiers more afraid, our allies less loyal, our enemies more bold. Fear is spreading through our empire faster than we can stop it." As if to prove his point, reports began arriving of rebellions breaking out across Zirathi territory. Slave races that had been crushed for thousands of years were suddenly finding the courage to fight back. They had seen that the mighty Zirathi could be defeated, and they wanted their freedom. The hunt had begun, and the hunters had become the hunted. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the UES Wanderer, looking out at the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. Thousands of human ships filled the space around them, stretching as far as the eye could see. Battleships, carriers, destroyers, and cruisers, all bearing the symbols of humanity's return to the stars. 1 year had passed since the first human ship had broken the 20,000-year silence. 1 year since Captain Alex Stone had attacked the mining facility and announced to the galaxy that humanity was alive. Now the Zirathi Empire was nothing but a memory, and the humans who had once hidden in the darkness were the new guardians of the galaxy. Colonel Sam Turner's voice came over the communication system from the surface of Earth. "Commander Morrison, the restoration project is ahead of schedule. The atmosphere is breathable again, the oceans are clean, and plant life is spreading across all the continents. Earth is becoming home again." Jake smiled as he listened to the report. Earth had been a dead world for 20,000 years, stripped of all life by Zirathi mining operations. But human technology had brought it back to life in just 12 months. Advanced terraforming machines had rebuilt the atmosphere, restored the water cycle, and replanted forests across the planet's surface. The children who had been born on the Wanderer were now walking on real soil, breathing real air, and seeing real sunlight for the first time in their lives. They were planting gardens, building cities, and creating the new human civilization that would grow from the ashes of the old one. Dr. Rachel Kim joined Jake at the observation window. She had been appointed as the new director of Human-Alien Relations, responsible for managing humanity's interactions with the hundreds of species that now lived under human protection. It was a job that required great wisdom and patience. "The vegan delegates have arrived," she reported. "They want to sign a mutual defense treaty with humanity. They're offering to share their medical technology in exchange for protection from any future aggressors." Jake nodded. The vegans were one of dozens of alien species that had approached humanity since the fall of the Zirathi Empire. Some wanted protection, others wanted trade agreements, and a few wanted to join the human alliance as equal partners. All of them had learned the same lesson. It was better to be humanity's friend than their enemy. "What about the former Zirathi territories?" Jake asked. "The transition is going smoothly," Rachel replied. "Most of the slave races have formed their own governments and are learning to govern themselves. We're providing guidance and support, but we're not trying to control them. They've had enough of being ruled by others. That had been one of humanity's first decisions after winning the war. They would not become the new Zirathi Empire. They would not conquer and enslave other species. Instead, they would protect the galaxy from anyone who tried to repeat the Zirathi's mistakes." Admiral Kate Sullivan's image appeared on the communication screen near the observation window. She was speaking from the bridge of the Retribution, which was patrolling the outer rim of the galaxy. Even in victory, humanity remained vigilant. Jake, she said, her voice carrying the satisfaction of a job well done. Long-range sensors have detected several unknown ships approaching from outside the galaxy. They appear to be refugees from some kind of conflict in a distant star cluster. Jake activated his own communication system. What's our response, Admiral? We're moving to intercept and offer assistance, she replied. It's what humans do now. We protect those who need protection. The irony was not lost on Jake. 20,000 years ago, humanity had been the refugees, fleeing from an empire that wanted to destroy them. Now they were the ones offering shelter to others who were running from their own enemies. Captain Susan Wright was aboard one of the patrol ships that had encountered the refugees. Her report came in a few minutes later. Commander, we've made contact with the refugee fleet. They're called the Corvani, and they're fleeing from something called the Shadow Collective. Their ships are damaged, they're low on supplies, and they have thousands of civilians aboard. But bring them to the sanctuary worlds, Jake ordered immediately. Give them whatever they need. Food, medical care, safe places to live, and find out more about this Shadow Collective. If they're threatening innocent people, we need to know about it. This was humanity's new role in the galaxy. They were no longer the hunted running from those who wanted to destroy them. They were the hunters, seeking out evil wherever it might be hiding. They were the guardians, protecting those who could not protect themselves. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez was now Captain Rodriguez, commanding her own ship in the exploration fleet. Her mission was to map the unknown regions of the galaxy and search for threats that might endanger the peace that humanity had fought so hard to achieve. Commander, her voice came over the communication system, we've discovered something in the Andromeda galaxy that you need to see. It looks like the remains of an ancient civilization, but the technology is unlike anything we've encountered before. Jake made a note to review Rodriguez's report later. The galaxy was full of mysteries, and humanity was determined to explore them all. But they would do so carefully, learning from the mistakes of the past. They would not become conquerors or destroyers. They would be explorers and protectors. Dr. Carl Thompson approached Jake with a datapad containing the latest psychological reports. Commander, we've been studying the long-term effects of the war on both humans and aliens. The results are fascinating. What did you find? Jake asked. The galaxy has changed, Thompson replied. For 20,000 years, most species lived in fear of the Zirathi. They were afraid to explore, afraid to innovate, afraid to resist. Now that fear is gone, and they're experiencing a renaissance of creativity and discovery. Jake looked at the data on the pad. Art, science, literature, and music were flourishing throughout the galaxy as species that had been suppressed for millennia finally felt free to express themselves. It was as if the entire galaxy had been holding its breath for 20,000 years and was finally able to breathe again. And what about us? Jake asked. How have humans changed? Thompson smiled. We've learned that revenge is not the same as justice. We could have destroyed every Zirathi in the galaxy, but we chose to be better than that. We captured their leaders, put them on trial, and sent them into exile. We showed the galaxy that strength doesn't have to mean cruelty. Jake thought about Emperor Zekvarath, who was now living on a prison world with the other Zirathi war criminals. They were alive, but they would never again have the power to hurt anyone. It was a fitting punishment for creatures who had caused so much suffering. Engineer Pete Collins joined them at the observation window. He was now the chief designer of humanity's new starships, vessels that were built for exploration and protection, rather than war. The new colony ships are ready for launch, he reported. Each one can carry 10,000 people and all the equipment needed to start a new civilization. Humanity is ready to spread across the galaxy again, but this time we won't be running, we'll be building. Jake looked out at the fleet of human ships and thought about the future. Humanity had survived 20,000 years of exile and had emerged stronger than ever. They had learned to be patient, to plan carefully, and to never give up hope. Most importantly, they had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. There were new worlds to explore, new species to meet, and new challenges to face. But humanity was ready for whatever the future might bring. The Phantom ship had crossed the stars and found its way home. The long night was over, and the dawn of a new age had begun. In the depths of space, human ships continued their eternal patrol, guardians of a galaxy that would never again forget the price of tyranny or the power of hope.